Hi YouTube, Mr. Dodo8449 here. Today I'm doing part 4 of my mini-series on the Somerset and Dorset Joint Railway. Now, at the end of part 3, I was talking about accidents that happened on the line, and I left one out, which is this one we're currently looking at, the Radstock accident of 1876. Now, the reason I left it out is because it's quite a big accident, as it was the only major accident to happen with a passenger train on the line, where about 12 people died. Now, there was a second accident in the exact same piece of track that is not officially reported. Somebody found a diary of someone who worked at the station, and it was reported in there, but there's no official report of it. So it goes down as there was just one accident, but there was actually two. So after I've looked through this accident, we're going to look at the Pines Express quickly, and then we're going to look at just see if there's any other information we can find on a different web page. Now, this is the last video for the moment. There will be another one when I get back home, as I'll be able to then go and show you some features that still exist from the line, and you'll be able to see how much earth they had to move to make this track as level as possible. It was quite a substantial amount. Then, as well as that, I'll be doing one more video after that of any corrections that I need to make. Any questions that you have, I'll be answering in that video, and any more interesting facts that I found, I'll be putting in that video as well. So back to this one here. As I said, it happened on the 7th of August 1876, and it was the only major accident to a passenger train. About 12 people died during the collision, so it's not many, but it was a major collision for for a smallish company like Somerset and Dorset Joint Railway. So, well, we don't need to know about the background history, but basically, is what it says is that at this time of this accident, the company was not spending money on maintenance and looking after the tracks. They were spending money on trying to get the public in and buying the best locos they could. That's what they were spending all their money on, which meant things like telegraph communications weren't working that well. Signs, signals, were maybe not as clear as they should be, and things like that. So basically, is what happened is there was two trains involved. There was one going on the up line and one going on the down line. Now, the loco going on the up line was a slow-moving freight train that was actually empty, amazingly. The train was, I've forgotten where it was heading, but basically the train was heading to drop off its load, and then it was going to come back to a station and pick up a passenger train that was it's something like that there was no way that at the station there was no way for the loco to run around, which means going from the front of the train to run around to the back of the train, which will then become the front of the train when they pull off again. I hope that makes sense. There was no way of it doing that. So this empty freight train was going to drop off its load, head over to the station, pick up the train, and then take the train back. So it was slowing. It stopped at the signal. And it waited for roughly 5 minutes before it was given a signal from the signal box to proceed. Now, running the signal box, the two signal boxes involved were two boys aged 18. There was three of them actually, and the oldest one was 18 years old. So they were very young. They weren't experienced, and they were left then. It was at about 11:30 at night. So it was quite late at night, which means it was dark, so it wasn't very clear. So this first boy has left. He's given the train the go-ahead. It's been waiting for about 5 minutes, so the train now slowly is pulling off. It's a heavy train, so it slowly gets going, and it's going uphill. Then at the other end of the single stretch of line, there is two 060 saddle tankers, which are pulling a mixed freight load, I believe, with coaches right behind the locos and then goods wagons right at the back. Now, these three are obviously at the top of the hill. They've had to wait. They've now been given the go-ahead to go down the tracks. Obviously, we've now got two tracks heading each other. It's inevitable what happens. They crash on head-on. Now, the two saddle tanks going downhill managed to pick up enough speed to comfortably going down the hill at a good pace. The train coming up was going very slowly still. It had a heavy load, couldn't get it going. So when these trains collided head-on, you would expect it was to go everywhere and be absolute destruction, but quite amazingly, the locos all stayed on the track except from the front saddle tank loco, which derailed its. I'm not sure which, but one of its sets of wheels derailed. And it was the only thing to derail. but the shock, the force from them hitting each other, sent the passengers in the coaches basically flying, which is unfortunately, they obviously would hit their head. I don't really know what happened, but something like that. And that's how they actually died in this accident, rather than something rolling off the track, big explosion or anything like that. That's how they actually died. Very sad news, and unfortunately, this accident could have been avoided if the telegraph system between the two signal boxes were working properly. Now, the investigation that followed it basically said the blame was equally split between the three lads who were working the signal boxes. Both of them did not wait for a signal saying that the track was clear, so both of them sent their locos off without the clear sign. And unfortunately, they were both blamed for the accident. So that is what happened for this one major crash, the biggest one on the Somerset and Dorset line. Now, I did mention there was a second one, which was unreported except from a guy who worked at the station in his diary. And he basically explained the same accident again, but this time it was with two slow-moving freight locos. I think they were like 060s or something smaller like that. They were moving very slowly, so when they saw each other, they obviously put on the brakes and they slid into each other rather than powered into each other. So I don't think the accident was, and I think it was a minor accident in the end, but it occurred at the same bit of track for the exact same reason. The signalman gave the go-ahead without receiving an all-clear from the other signal box. So again, they collided with each other. I think I missed out one fact. I think it was a foggy night. The first accident, it was a foggy night, and somewhere I read that the downhill train didn't see the uphill train until there was only 30 yards between them. So there was absolutely no way, nothing they could have done to stop. There it is. Found himself face to face with another train just 30 yards away, right down the bottom there. So as you can see, it was unfortunately a signal error, which should have been fixed, but the money for the line was being spent at other places. I believe after this event that was changed quite dramatically, and very soon after the LMS got a foot or handhold in the Somerset and Dorset and started to give them a bit of money and help them with their finances. So moving away from that, let's talk to something that's a lot bit more brighter. The Pines Express. Now, I'm sure people have heard of this. You would have probably heard of this from SDJR7F88. He's mentioned it a couple of times as he has the loco and the coaches to run this express on his line, on his layout. Apologies to Callum. I believe he has done it, or he's planning on running it as soon as he can sort of get the time. But the Pines Express, it ran for the first time, as it says here, on the 26th of September 1927, and it's well, I'm not quite sure why it's named the Pines Express, but here it says believed to be named after the pine trees growing in the in Bournemouth area, as it ran from the Midlands, from Manchester down to Bournemouth in the south of England, and the most direct route from that is Manchester to Bath, and then get onto the Somerset and Dorset line, and then go from Bath all the way down to Bournemouth, right on the south coast. And it was used as a holiday route, basically, for people from the Midlands to get down to the south for some sun, for some summer holidays and some summer sun, was the main reason for it. It wasn't named when the service first ran, unnamed on the 1st of October 1910. It was run jointly by the Midland Railway and the LNWR. Apologies, I'm not sure what that stands for. If someone knows, put a comment below. But that's who was running it, was the Midland Railway, which is why they were able to use the Somerset and Dorset Railway, because they were, being a different company, you would not go and use the GWR route, and the Somerset and Dorset was the most direct route. So now, why is the Pines Express so well, why is it so sort of famous and important and so on? Basically, it's because it was about the only time on the Somerset and Dorset when they had big, fast locos running over it. They quite often have what would they be? They'd be 462s, big steamer engines like that running through, and the most famous one would have been the 9F92220 Evening Star. That's right, the Evening Star ran on the Somerset and Dorset Railway. It pulled the Pines Express, and it did it for quite a few trips. It wasn't just a one-off. Um, so, as you may know, I am planning on buying an Evening Star. And the reason I'm buying it is because I will hopefully be creating my own Pines Express, maybe a slightly shorter version with just 3 coaches rather than the full 8 or 9 it used to pull. And I'd have an Evening Star on my layout, but I need to obviously get the layout in a complete circuit first. But that will all happen in progress. But anyway, so that's just a nice little fact. The last steam engine to ever be built in England, except from the Tornado, which was built in the past few years or something, was the Evening Star, and it did run on the Somerset and Dorset Joint Railway, so that was quite cool when I found that out. But anyway, it was in 1964. It was the last passenger service to go over the Didcot, Newbury, and Southampton Railway before closure, which is on its way. Well, it's on the south coast, so it's where it's from. Leaves Somerset and Dorset and moves on to the next line. And then, well, that's kind of what happened. It just died out about 1976-ish time. Is when it stopped running these trains down there. But it's quite a nice picture there, just of a loco. As you can see, sort of 4 coaches there, big steam engine, and these big steam engines were able to pull the full 8 coaches fully loaded over the. They weren't able to pull them, so quite often they'd have to have 060 shunters to help them get over the real steep gradients on the Somerset and Dorset. Except from the 9F, she had so much power, so much torque that she just cruised over without even thinking about it, which is why Somerset and Dorset had quite a few 8Fs and 7Fs, as they were able to pull these heavy freight trains over the high peaks that most other locos had to have an assist. In fact, all other locos had to have something assisting to get it up and over. So that's the Pines Express, very famous in England, just because of what he did. He just ran straight from Manchester to Bournemouth as a holiday service. So finally, we're just going to quickly look at this final web page, Somerset and Dorset Joint Railway, often known as the S&D, or Slow and Dirty, as it was mainly freight, so it would be slow, it'd be dirty, it'd be heavy work, which is what happened. So we had 48 stations, as I mentioned previously. Unfortunately, it is disused. Boo about that. But anyway, it closed finally on the 7th of March 1966. It closed 3 years or 2 years earlier than that for passengers, and that's when it closed for freight. And as you can see, the owners by the end of it were the Midland Railway, the London and South West Railway, the LMS Railway, and the Southern Railway, as well as the original S&D clump of 4 that I mentioned in video 2, I think, or 1. Probably 2 in video 2. So you can see it had loads of people, hence why it was called a joint railway. So a few departments. It had a Highbridge Locomotive Works, Carriage Works, and Wagon Works, and it also had a Bournemouth maintenance department. But in Highbridge, they actually built a lot of the locos, especially some of the earlier ones that I mentioned in video 1, I think. It did run standard gauge, and it went up to just 810 feet, but it went up from 810 feet down to around about, I don't know, maybe minus 20 feet below sea level, maybe more than that. So that is quite a steep gradient over just 100 meters, over just 100 miles of track. You can see that is a lot of up and down, which made it very steep and very difficult to work. So that is about it for this video. There's not much more really to mention about it. I'll just leave you with this picture if it loads quickly. But that is the Somerset and Dorset Joint Railway, the local one to me, the one I've modelled it, and hopefully you can now see why I enjoy working with it and why I enjoy modelling it. I just think it's an absolutely brilliant little, well, quite large company actually by the time it's finished. They had great links, they had brilliant locos, and yeah. So thanks for watching. If you have any comments, leave them below please. I will answer them in a video at the end. If you haven't already, please click that subscribe button and check out my channel, as there will be a few more videos for this, and as well as that, my 00 gauge and my N gauge layouts when I get the time to put it together. Thanks for watching.